Hey there, I'm Jeff Elkins, and this is the Dialogue Doctor Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by JP Rindfleisch IX, and he and I are talking about the book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel. So JP and I do personal updates at the start of our conversation, so I'm not going to do that now. Instead, I'm just going to say, don't forget to sign up for the Dialogue Dash. It starts last weekend in September and goes through December 13th. It is our community writing experience. Look, writing is a team sport. You need people around you to support you, to encourage you, to write alongside of you. It's not something we do in isolation. So come get a team around you. We will have webinars that help you rethink the book you're working on, help you think about it from different angles and different lights. We will have office hours 3 times a week where you can come and meet with a coach 3 times a week. We will have writing sprints together, and we will do, you'll get 2 full workbooks that help you process your thing together. There's actually so much, it's hard to do all of it. So the way it's designed is that you can kind of pick and choose what's going to be most helpful for you. The price is $1 a day, so it's $80 total. So come and sign up for the Dialogue Dash. You can do that at dialoguedoctor.com. Click on the Dash button in the menu. Okay, that is it for announcements. Let's get into the conversation with JP.
Okay, I hit record. I'm on with JP. It's a joint with JP.
Yay, joints.
If we actually had a studio producer, I'd have them make a bong sound here, but I don't.
Perfect.
We don't have
I don't have anything that could make that efficiently.
No, yeah.
Up here.
Which is funny, because if it were actually a true joint with JP, you'd be like, oh, just hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are talking about a craft book. I have not told you which one.
Yeah.
Do you know which one we're talking about? I did put it in the title
You did put it in the title. Do you want to do any updates? How are you? How's life?
Oh, we should. I mean, we just did that for 30 minutes.
We did. That was on you for not hitting record. I don't know why you did that.
I just like to hang out with you.
Yeah, we just like to chat. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So you are conquering the world as a independent author right now.
Sure.
You are selling beyond your wildest dreams. How's
that? It's good. It's now the 4th month of being a full-time author. Not by choice, but hey, I'm here.
Dozed.
Yeah. TikTok Shop's been really good. And I told you this earlier, but I have 1,000 book order coming in soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put all of them in your little attic? I hope the next time I get on a Zoom call with you, you're just have a wall.
Books. Hello. I'm just sitting here. Hello.
You're just pressed up against the camera. You're like, hey.
Everything's fine. No, we're gonna convert our living room because we don't use it and it's just has junk in it right now.
Nice.
So we're just gonna convert that into a little pack up shop, because otherwise it is 36 boxes. Damn. All 44 pounds a piece. So it's 1,500 pounds total.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So
when do you get the Sasha Black warehouse?
I don't know, but right now I have a house that can hold them.
Okay. I'm hoping for the warehouse someday.
Okay.
I'd like to come to the JP/Brandon Sanderson style humongous warehouse.
Just rolling into my warehouse.
Rolling into your warehouse.
Hey, everybody.
That's right. Well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. I told you this earlier, but I'm super proud of you as a friend that you're crushing it, because I know how much work it is. It's not like this just happened. Social media is off the chain. You're trying new things all the time. Your Kickstarters are amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Packing orders is a lot.
Yeah.
I am lucky enough that I have a close contact who, it's Sasha Black, who I've talked to a couple of times, and she had me time how long I was packing orders and was great, now half that. And then when I halved that, she's great, now half that again, because I was taking too long. So I reduced how I package stuff, but still made it a good user experience when they open stuff. But yeah, she's like, you're taking too long packing. What's going to happen when you get this many orders? And I'm like, I don't have to worry about that. And then the next week I was like, I have to worry about that today. She's like, oh, interesting.
That's
So
hysterical.
yeah, so
When you decided to start writing books, did you think one of your major problems would be efficient box packing?
absolutely not. No, so that's fun. It's a fun little
That,
additive.
that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
How about you?
I'm querying screenplays and it
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it's fine. I'm getting responses, which is nice. I've gotten a couple requests for manuscript. The way my mentor has told me it works, Sean Paul Murphy has told me it works, is we've written a very nice query letter. I send a nice. I'm not just like blanketing people. I am looking for people that I actually think would want to work with this screenplay. It
Yeah.
requires a lot of research. In the last 3 weeks, I've sent out 72 of them,
Oh my God.
and um, it takes me about 2 hours to send out seven because
Yeah.
I do seven a day. Sometimes I do 10. Sometimes I'm querying to a specific company's website. Sometimes I'm querying to a specific actor. I'm like, hey, I saw you in this. I think you might like this role in this screenplay. Here's kind of what it looks like. And then there's our like log line and all of that.
Yeah.
And so it's going, I am shocked I've gotten any responses at all. But I have gotten some people writing back being like, hey, I'd like to read that. Can you send me
Yeah.
the manuscript? And
Ooh.
so we'll see. I've written to my goal was four this year, four feature films this year to write, not to sell. Oh my gosh, if I could sell four feature films in a year, they'd like make a gold statue of me in Hollywood. I don't actually know if that's true. It would feel that way though. I've written two, I've completed two, I'm on my third. So I'm on pace to finish four this year. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, so it's going okay, man. It's
Yeah. I
just, and
mean,
then I'm writing Nerd season two with you, so we can get the Kickstarter out in
yeah.
October.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, when you make it big, you can park your private jet in my warehouse.
nice, thank you. I'm gonna need a landing pad for my helicopter on the roof,
Perfect. Perfect.
please. Yeah. Um, and I'll just show up whenever I want. Wouldn't that be the life? I mean, come
That
on.
would be weird.
Yeah. If we were making enough money so that I didn't have to have a day job, that would be amazing. Uh, yeah, that would, and I would just like drive around the country a lot. Wendy
Yeah.
teases me. She's like, "What would be your ideal vacation?" And I'm like, "I just want to get in a car. I want like
Just go.
2.5 weeks,
Yeah.
and I want no planning, and I just want to like drive in. Like I would go from Baltimore, where I am, to Boston, and then I'd shoot across the northern Midwest, all the way to Seattle, and then I'd drive to San Francisco. That would
Nice.
be my ideal.
Yep.
That just stopping wherever the hell I want. That would be my
Yeah.
ideal vacation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
she's like, I will fly and meet you in major cities, but I'm not doing that with you.
we decided a few years ago to drive to Montana, which is like a 24-hour drive. So we split it up into 2 days.
Yeah.
Uh that was like the best drive ever.
I
Except middle of nowhere, but best drive
but
ever.
gorgeous, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Montana's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Badlands are weird and I love them.
They're weird and you feel like, am I gonna die here? Like it's a great, yeah.
It's
And
very cool.
I love just drive like the US is gorgeous and I love just driving through it and like
Yeah.
really just kind of stopping wherever I get close to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like
just like weird things.
yeah, well, like I do it a lot in cities. I don't have enough time to like drive the country, but yeah, I don't know if I talked about this or not on the podcast. Back in March, a friend of mine, Eric, and I went to New York and we started in the Upper West Side at Zabar's Bagels,
Hmm.
and we walked the city all the way to the Golden Bull in Wall Street.
Yeah.
And then we walked to the Brooklyn Bridge. We walked across the Brooklyn Bridge. And I think it ended up being like 20 something miles of walking that day. But we
That's
saw
nuts.
so much freaking cool stuff. Like it was
Yeah.
just, yeah, it was just amazing.
Wasn't that like, didn't you bring your son and he went and hung out with people that day or
That
something?
was a different trip to New York.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
my son's 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just
he
like
and his five friends
traveling
went.
around.
I do. I like just landing in a place and like wandering around. It's fun.
Yeah.
I've done Boston, New York, Philly. Um, I do DC all the time. Not right now because there's federal troops there and I'm not interested in accidentally being deported.
Fair.
Um, Sorry, I had to stop myself before I said more. Yeah, but I do DC all the time. My son, my youngest and I just did the 10-year-old and I just did the Smithsonian museums, and we
Ooh.
went down. That was like 2 weeks ago before the federal troops showed up, and they started curating. In the federal government, the White House started curating the Smithsonian's, which is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating
Mm-hmm.
idea. Um,
Yeah.
Fascinating, not in a good way.
No.
But my son and I went, and I told him, I was like, we're going to start in the World History Museum because he really wanted to see this specific dinosaur. I was like, and then we're just going to go from museum to museum. And when you're done, we'll go home. And he was like, great. So we did like 3/4 of the World History Museum. He was not interested in mummies. He does not like mummies. He thinks they're very scary. So we did not do those. But we did like the Hope Diamond. We did the
Yeah.
dinosaurs. We did the aquatic life. And then we were going to go to the Air and Space, but I found out you need a reservation for that. So we didn't go there. But we went to the sculpture garden and he liked that. And then we did the National Art Museum and we saw about
Mm-hmm.
half of that. And then he was like, all right, I'm done. I was like, I was in the middle of talking to him about the wonders of the Impressionists. And we're like looking at
Mm-hmm.
them. And he's like, can we go see something else? I'm like, yeah, we can.
You're
So
like, I'm in the middle of my speech.
yeah, I'm like, and then Monet. But so then we went and had lunch on the mall, and then he wanted to do monuments. So we did
Mm-hmm.
Lincoln, we did Korean, we did
Mm-hmm.
MLK.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the Jefferson in the distance, and he was like, let's walk there. And I was like, all right, it's a mile and a half walk around this lake. Because evidently we hate Jefferson, so we put him off on his own island, like out. We
Yeah.
built him a big statue, but we put it
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere.
You get the statue over
Yeah.
there.
I do love the shade of the Martin Luther King Memorial in that it looks at Jefferson, which I think is perfect.
Yep.
It's an amazing monument. I mean, I'm a disciple, but it is beautiful just to go there. But I like I like the imagery of it. He's coming out of a mountain. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But then we were like, well, I was like, are you done? And he's like, no. He's like, what can we see now? I was like, well, there's a bunch of small Smithsonian's over here that nobody ever goes to. And he's like, let's do those. So we did the Asian art, we did the African art, we did there was another one in there too. There's three of them that are really small and they're all connected by secret tunnels. And
Ooh.
so we went into the secret tunnels. They're not
Yeah.
actually secret, they're a bunch of people's offices, but
Yeah.
you can literally just go down these stairs and you're in these tunnels. So we went by tunnels, and then we'd walk out the front door and be like, "We're over here now." I'd be like, "Yeah." So, and then we did the Modern Art Museum, and we were walking around this circle. I hope I haven't told this story before on the podcast. If I have, I apologize. The Modern Art Museum is a circle. Have you ever been there? It's a
I
donut.
I don't think so.
Okay, it's several floors. It's a
Yeah.
donut. You start, and it kind of gives you like somewhat of a trajectory of how modern art has progressed.
Yeah.
So we're starting, and it starts very like kind of looking like actual things, and then it goes into like shapeism where it's like this, and we're looking at stuff and he's like, how what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, well, it's about how it makes you feel. We're looking at, and then they have this one exhibit that is a room, and he was kind of trying to get into it. He's a very like feeling sensey kid, so he was
Yeah.
like, ooh, this one like makes me feel sad. I'm like, okay, well, that's what it's supposed to like, that's how you're supposed to use this. So there's this one room. The whole room, floor, ceiling, and all the walls is painted in kind of a psychedelic color, and there's weird, large writing everywhere.
Okay.
And the writing are just journal entries. It's
Yeah.
like I had a dream that I wrote a novel and I was talking to my agent, and I found out while I was talking to my agent, I was naked, but I've never actually written a word. And
Was
like
this
that's like
your
a
journal?
paragraph on the wall. I
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the middle of and there's this like music playing that's like a little atonal. It's like dun 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 dun, and the
Mm-hmm.
lights are all like neon. And there's this black dove, statue of this black dove in the middle of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So as my 10-year-old is walking through the room, like looking around, He comes walking toward the black dove. And just by chance, it had nothing to do with him getting close to the black dove, but right as he got close to it and was like looking at it, the music changed. And it was like, and he's like, ah! So it was total chance, but it freaked him out. And he was like, we have to leave. And I was like, all right. So we left. We skipped the rest of the donut straight to the stairs,
Yep.
down the stairs. We're out in the courtyard. He's like, I want to go home now.
Great.
Yeah. Modern art killed my son's Smithsonian experience. But yeah, anyway.
That is
That's
hilarious.
yeah, it was great. Um, but yeah, so those are my updates. That's my
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how we got off on that weird tangent, but
I loved every minute of it.
okay. All right. So the book we're talking about. Any other updates before I jump to the book? Any other weird stories you want to tell?
No.
Okay. The book we're talking about today is a classic, modern classic. Save the Cat writes a novel by Jessica Brody.
Ooh.
Have you read this book?
Yes.
Ooh, this is one. I think this is the first time we've both read it.
Yes.
Have you read Save the Cat, the original?
I did. I
Nice.
read that one first.
I did too.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give some history of the book and like orient us to where we are, and then we can just talk about our opinions.
Yeah.
Since you've already read it.
Yeah.
So, uh, Blake Snyder is. I have to start with Blake Snyder because this is actually the sixth book in this series, which I did not know, but this is book number six. In the Blake Snyder. Can you name the other five?
Well, one has to be like screen. No, I was gonna say
Save the
screenplay.
Cat is the first one.
Yeah, and then I have no idea.
Okay. So Save the Cat is the first one. It's written in 2005 by Blake Snyder. Blake Snyder is a working screenplay writer in Hollywood. He's born in the 50s, but he starts in the 60s and 70s. He works for children's television as a producer of children's television, like a showrunner for children's television. And then in the 80s, he moves over to Disney TV and starts writing for Disney TV. And then in the 90s, he moves to spec screenplay writing, which is where a studio kind of give you an idea and then you write a screenplay on spec and then they buy it or not. His two big successes that were both sold for over $500,000 were Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, starring Sylvester Stallone,
Oh.
which he wrote and sold for $500,000 in 1992. And that ended up getting the Raspberry Award for the worst screenplay of the year, which I think is really funny, but he sold it for a lot of money. So you judge which that goes. And then the other one he wrote is Blank Check, which sold for $1 million. It ended up being a Kevin Spacey movie about a kid paying it forward.
Yeah. I remember that movie.
Yeah. He then he won an Emmy for his children's production, and then he goes into kind of teaching screenplay writing. Save the Cat is the culmination of his system. It's written in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And 2007 he wrote Save the Cat Goes to the Movies, which is like Save the Cat is a beat sheet structure, which we'll talk about in a minute. Save the Cat Goes to the Movies breaks down a ton of movies in the beat sheet. In 2009, he wrote a frequently asked questions book called Save the Cat Strikes Back, More Trouble for Screenwriters to Get Into and Out of. That's number 3. Number 4 is he dies in 2009, so very suddenly at the age of 53. So other people kind of pick up his stuff. Save the Cat. Blake's blog is published in 2016, which is just blog posts posthumously by his organization.
Mm-hmm.
And then Save the Cat Goes to the Indies is published in 2017 by a woman named Salvo Rubio. And then Save the Cat Writes a Novel is number 6 by Jessica Brody, which is the one we're talking about today. And then Jessica Brody has written another one in 2023 called Save the Cat Writes a Young Adult Novel, The Ultimate Guide to Writing YA Bestsellers.
Okay.
From what I can tell, the books all have the exact same structure. They just use
Yeah.
different examples.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the indies, it's the exact same structure and it just goes over indie movies?
It's 50 films from the masters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it probably uses
But
the
they don't screw with the beat sheet. They
Yep.
don't screw with the genres.
Okay.
And they don't screw with the description of hero. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So Jessica Brody is the author of this one. She graduates college in 2001 and works in the movie industry from 2001 to 2005 as an acquisitions person. Acquisitions person reads screenplays and decides which ones the studios are going to buy. And then in 2005, she decides that she's going to write. This is all in the opening of the book we're reading, by the way.
Hmm.
She decides she's going to write novels. She wants to be trad published. She's not an indie publisher. She wants to like get publisher, which in 2005 makes sense because we're talking pre
Yeah.
Kindle Gold Rush 2014. Her first novel is published in 2010. Since then, she's published over 20 novels. Her successful novels are YA, and then tween fiction. And she really started to take off when she was hired by Disney to write novels for the Descendants movies. So
Okay.
she wrote like tween novels that go along with the Descendants movies about the high school they all go to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so she has a career as a novel writer. And then she teaches Blake Snyder's classes and is part of the Save the Cat universe. Okay, that's the history. Do you feel like you know the book better now that you know the history of the book?
Yes. I
Did you
didn't
say that
know.
just to appease me so I'll stop talking about the history of the book?
No, I didn't know that the some of the Save the Cats like basically did the movie itself, like just the whole book was just breakdowns of movies, and I didn't know the facts one. So like
Okay.
those ones interest me because I'm like, oh, if I wanted to know more, like I could just see repetition over and over again instead of being retaught something I already know.
Yeah.
And if I want the facts, I can expand off of that one.
And let me just say, if you're from the Save the Cat organization, please fast forward 25 seconds and don't listen to this. Everything in all of these books is on the website. You can
Yeah,
find, I would buy the book as a reference, but literally just go read their website. It's all
yeah,
on there.
yeah.
Especially the day after you hear the structure, you can go read the website. Now, I've never taken one of their classes, but I've heard that they're really good.
Hmm.
Um, please don't sue us. But it's all on their website. You can go like you can literally just Google Save the Cat beat sheet and
Oh yeah,
the 15
yeah,
things come up. Mostly because the impact of this system, specifically on the movie industry, but I would also argue on write fast, publish, repeat style writing
yeah.
is gargantuan.
Yes, I agree.
There's a rumor that goes around screenplay writers that if you don't write to save the cat, you will never sell them. You'll never sell a feature. I think that's becoming less and less true, but it is still something. I hang out with a couple screenplay writers every other week, and they talk about it all the time. They're like,
Yeah,
this is something that they complain about all the time is that this book has been so pervasive in what it means because executives and acquisitions people and like they're gonna drop millions of dollars to make a movie.
yep,
They need to know it's going to have a financial return. They can't.
yeah,
It's not like an indie publisher where we're like, I'll write a book, and if it doesn't sell, I lost 6 months. But it's a like we'll literally probably all lose our jobs.
yeah.
So
And
this system guarantees a win.
I would
That
argue like anytime a movie is outside of that in Western film, it's always, this is the avant-garde movie or
hmm
this is, they always have to caveat it to like this is special and different because it breaks the mold. And so like they use a lot of terminology as if to say like everything else you watch follows this very strict structure and now we're going to show you this piece, but we have to warn you that it
yeah,
doesn't follow this
it
because
doesn't
otherwise you're
follow
going
the
to hate
structure.
it.
Yeah, you're going to be very mad. And I actually don't find I think there's a break between story consumers and story producers. I actually
Yeah.
don't think that is true,
Yeah.
but it is the myth we believe.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and because like you watch those movies that quote break the mold, and whether or not you know that, tend to have like some like there are plenty of those that I'm like, wow, those are really good movies, or like,
yeah,
wow, that didn't follow anything that I would have expected, and I still really enjoyed it. And so I think that there's this fear that if you deviate too much from the script, that all of a sudden it's gonna be hated.
yeah. And I mean, we can get into this even more as we talk, but I will say transitioning from screenplay writing to applying this formula to a novel Jessica Brody does a great job
Hmm.
transitioning the formula over. It is a difficult formula to apply to a novel
Yes.
because one of the aspects of a screenplay that a novel doesn't have. I'm actually giving a talk on this at the Allied conference in October, so everybody should go register for the Allied conference in October
Ooh, little
because
plug right there.
I will be giving an hour-long talk on the difference between screenplay writing and novel writing and how to write novels for a screenplay generation. Anyway, one of the major differences is that screenplays have to be painfully efficient.
Yeah.
You have 120 pages for a feature. Each page is 1 minute of screen time. And if you go every page over that is, another $1 million of production. So
Yeah.
and that last number is made up, but that's how they think about it. Every page over that is more money.
Yeah.
So you have to be incredibly efficient. So this kind of system works great because it's like, hey, on page 10, this thing should happen. And in Save the Cat, Schneider actually gives page numbers. He's like on page 5, on page 28. For novel writing, it gets more, you can be more indulgent because an extra 50 pages doesn't actually matter.
Yep.
Like, especially if they're good, it's actually an advantage. So, it just changes. It's a tough system to apply directly to novels. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I, I will say though, I think Save the Cat was one of the first like craft books that I read, and of course it was for screenwriting, but the original Save the
Mhm.
Cat. But it opened my eyes to like story structure in a way that was easily done and quickly done, because when you watch movies, it's a very specific amount of time that is significantly shorter than reading a book. So you can start to break down story structure on the films you're watching and then start to try and reapply that to books. And I think that that's where like I really liked Save the Cat for movies because it broke it down for me. And it made me understand story structure really quickly. And then I had to start the work of shifting that over to novels. And I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel much later. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Um, and at that point, it didn't really click with me as much.
Mm. Did you write any books to the Save the Cat formula?
I wrote a lot of outlines to the Save the Cat formula,
Okay. But then
but
as you wrote the book, it kind of drifted.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It it has, like you said, it has a really good structure for a very succinct screenplay. But
Yeah.
then when you start to like develop story off of it, especially because when I originally started, I was more into like epic fantasy. So we're talking really long stories. I was like, okay, I did these first three things within the first 10 pages or whatever it was. And now I like if this is an epic fantasy, the next thing isn't going to happen until halfway through the book. So what the hell do I do now? Because
Yeah.
I've got like 500 pages to write here that I don't know what to do with. So
Yeah.
that's where I started delving into other structures to sort of see where I can find more novel structure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. For me, Save the Cat was my introduction to craft. I
Hmm.
started, I hold this in like, I'm going to criticize parts of it today, but I hold it in really high esteem. I
Yeah.
like I started writing at the age of 35. I'd never written any fiction before that. I wrote like I wrote close to 300 short stories, um, which is how I taught myself how to write scenes. And then after like 2 years of doing that, a year and a half of doing that, I was like, I'm going to try my first novel. And so I was talking to my friend Joe Bunting, and he was like, well, if you're looking for an easy structure, go read Save the Cat. And
Hmm.
I read Save the Cat. I wrote my first two novels directly to it that first year I was writing novels. Literally used a spreadsheet. and like put the beat sheets out. I didn't use a cork board like they describe in both of these books. I used the whiteboard, but I was doing the whole like move the cards around,
Yep.
which is where Scrivener comes from, by the way. If you use Scrivener's cards, you can say thank you to Save the Cat because that's the Blake Snyder system of moving cards around to figure out your scenes. Um, and so I think in the middle of at the end of my first novel, I was like, oh, I started to see like, oh, he's creating a specific emotional shape for a novel.
Hmm.
That's what he's doing. And I was like, I wonder if there are other emotional shapes. So he was my gateway into studying play structure. And that's when I was like, what is a five? He's doing like a 3.5 act structure.
Yeah.
What does a 5 act structure look like? What does a 7 act structure look like? What does a 2 act structure look like? What's a 1 act play? Like just kind of digging into all these different plot structures. And that very much set me on the course I'm on now of like
Yeah.
obsessing over craft. So this system was my foundation of learning. It was like my undergrad for craft writing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't write to it anymore. I'm writing screenplays to it. That's a lie. I do write screenplays to it.
Oh, so you just
Um,
lied. Okay.
yeah, I did just lie. I don't write novels to it anymore. Like we're writing Nerds. Nerds has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it that one has more of like a sequence to it.
It
It's
does.
just
It's
sort
like
of
a
like a
rolling.
repeatable sequence. Yeah.
I was actually analyzing Nerds 1 a couple weeks ago. It's actually kind of a spiral
Yeah.
because there's like three threads and we've braided them, but they come back in kind of a funnel motion.
Yeah.
So they all just kind of like
Yeah.
dissolve into a single plot thread. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, um, season 2, I think, has more of a specific structure to it, but it's not
Agreed.
Save the Cat.
It's a little different. Yeah.
It's a little different. Um, okay. So any other thoughts on general before we go into the specifics of the book?
Um, I don't think so.
Okay. The book's broken into 4 major parts. So I'm going to do this how we usually do it. I'm going to like summarize each of the parts, and then we can talk about each one after we like give the overview. The parts are heroes, or I would use the term main characters. Snyder's been criticized a lot for using male, masculine only language, which he does, which deserved criticism.
Yeah,
So
and
I
I
would,
mean he's dead
yeah.
now, so
He's dead now. I mean, Jessica Brody uses it too, but she's
right.
literally just pulling from what he uses.
Yeah.
So, Heroes is the first part, and then there's the 15 beat structure, and then there's genres, the 10 genres of storytelling, and then there is how to pitch your story.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
Brody at the end does frequently asked questions, which are kind of like, hey, here are some caveats to actually make this work for a novel. Uh, Interestingly, and I'm not sure why, she inverts in the original book, he does heroes genres, beat sheet, pitching.
Hmm.
She weirdly inverts it. She does heroes and like structure nerds like me was like, why did you turn those around? But she doesn't say. So maybe if I meet her someday, I'll ask her. I'll be like, why'd you flip them? Yeah. So let's talk about heroes. Um, the major premise of the first part is that your story needs a central character for the reader to relate to, which in Dialogue Dr. World, we call that the vehicle.
Yeah.
Because the word hero has an implication that this is a good character who is doing good in the world and is
Yeah.
going to succeed in the world, which is baked into the system, by the way.
Yeah.
This is a hero character. The hero needs a problem, a want, and a need. Those 3 things make up the hero's internal flaw. Why are you rolling your eyes at me?
A problem
That's
I want to need like a story hypothesis.
like a story hypothesis. Well, dude, yeah, I wanted to talk about how I think story hypothesis does this much better. Um, but it needs a problem, a want, and a need, which is their flaw. Those kind of culminate in what she calls a shard of glass, which is a psychological problem that's existed in the hero for a very long time, that festers under the hero's skin like a wound. She wants you to deal with that shard of glass in 2 different ways, an A story and a B story. Now, this gets very confusing for people because they also use the term B story in the 15 beats.
Hmm.
and they are related but not the same. So, no, when we get to the 15 beats, I'll explain how they're different. But right now, the word B story means the internal struggle of the character, um, which she calls the spiritual learning of the character. The character has to learn something internally, spiritually. The A story is the plot, which she says is the external. So internal and external story. Interestingly, she ends the chapter by saying these two things are developed separately by the author. That a lot of times you have a really good idea for a story, that's your A plot. A lot of times you have a really good idea for a character, like, oh, I want to write a character who's depressed. That's your B plot. And a good story marries the perfect plot with the perfect character.
Hmm.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
Okay.
You can't just say okay.
Um, no, so like as you were going, I sort of remembered why I fell away from Save the Cat was that it was there's too much formula going on. There's too much. Um, and like these are good things to have in the back of your mind. Maybe they help some people, but they don't help me.
Yeah,
So like it get like I was like, "Oh man, you're losing me." When you're talking about having to have a shard and all these, like, yes, when I develop stories, I do think of character first, um, and then I sort of like build that world around it. But it's very intergrained in itself because like the world mirrors the character in almost everything that I write. So like I'm not like, man, I want to write a character who has severe post-traumatic stress disorder and is a mage and then not have the rest of the story in my head because I'm like, as I'm thinking that, I'm thinking and they end up at a rehab and
yeah.
rehabilitation for other heroes. Like that part just automatically comes with the thought. So thinking of them as two separate things is sort of not congruent with how I do it.
How you feel it? Yeah, I think it's interesting. She uses the phrase emotional journey,
Hmm.
and we use that phrase all the time. And I talk about, like, when we teach, when the dialogue doctor coaches teach, we talk about how the most important thing is the character's emotional journey. And when we talk about that, we're talking about the B story, what she calls the B
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I have often wondered where that language came from. And I wonder if it was stored in my brain from Save the Cat.
Probably.
Um, because I was reading this last week and I was like, oh, that kind of pops, and I was like, oh, that's where this came from. I disagree with her that the plot in a novel specifically, that the plot is as important as the story, as the B
Yeah.
story. I don't
Yeah.
think the plot is near as important in a novel. Now, in a screenplay, and for the Allied talk, I just recorded that they'll play in October. I took 10 novels that became movies, and I looked at what they took from the story of the novel and how they changed it to make it fit into a movie, to then reverse engineer and figure out, like, hey, how can we start using movie techniques in novels? And I did find they almost always add some kind of clock or some kind of really strong plot device to keep the time focused,
Hmm.
um, so that it's limited in scope, uh, which I think is really interesting. So I think this is true that the A story and the B story are necessary in a screenwriting. I don't know that it's true in a novel.
Yeah.
I think the B story is really all that matters in a novel.
Yeah.
And
Who
yeah,
was I talking to about this earlier? I don't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about how important character is well above plot to the point
yeah,
where like even when you think about epic fantasy, which is very plot heavy, like
very plot heavy.
Brandon Sanderson's books though, you relate to that character, Kaladin, you
Yeah.
relate to his journey immediately, and that's the reason why you like the story, and it's so ingrained into how he develops as a character that
Hmm.
drives you forward through the story. So even in really big plot heavy books, the character is what draws you back. And I think that that's the majority of readers that they're not really there for like the big plot world building, but they're more there for the character's journey.
Yeah, it's interesting. We just, as the dialoguers, like as the Patreon community comes together once, or twice a month to like do like, learning, or we have office hours or that kind of thing. And we just did Silver Linings Playbook. And I looked at the differences between the novel and the movie because the novel was so popular. People said, I love this novel so much, let's make it into a movie. The novel is 100% character. It's
Yeah.
100% character. There really isn't a plot. There's not really an end. It's two very damaged people having a ton of dates together as they try to figure themselves out. The movie adds a dance competition on top to give it a plot, but there's no dancing in the novel. It's
Yeah.
just them having a bunch of talks. And the novel's beautiful, but it is 100% character driven. And so, I don't know. I get what she's trying to do. I think the other limitation of Hero, and she talks about this in the frequently asked questions, the Save the Cat understanding of Hero demands a single POV focus. So there you can
Yeah.
only have one POV.
Yeah.
Or you can only have one in the dialogue doctor terms, you can only have one vehicle character. Save the Cat is for a single vehicle character. Now, when you get to the frequently asked questions, she talks about like, hey, if you want multi-vehicle stories, if you want multi-perspective characters, you have to do a beat sheet for both of them and stack those beat sheets on top of each other, which is the way I wrote my first five novels. I did a beat sheet for every character. I stacked them on top of each other. I tried to see where they could combine. But she recommends that for, but the inherent in this is you're writing for a single character story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Hero before we go to the beat sheet itself?
I mean, you brought up the point about multiple POVs because that was going to be my sort of like question because I couldn't remember how she tackled it. Because, yeah, like stacking them seems interesting.
Well, there's another thing we talk about in the dialogue doctor teaching stuff. Like when we teach, I had a weird experience reading this book. If you can't tell, I was like, oh my gosh. Where we talk about how do you build, people ask us all the time, how do you build a series? And I'll be like, oh, you line up the growth arcs. So like
Yeah.
the first book is growth arc A, the second book is growth arc B. She talks about that at the end of the book. She's not talking about growth arcs. She's talking about the plots. She's like, you line up the 15 beats, and the next story is the next 15 beats. But both stories in a two-part series have to have their own 15 beats. And I was like, oh, this is so confusing. Because if you're
Yeah.
doing a multi-POV story, and so just to be clear, a multi-POV story in a three-book series, you have to have a overarching 15 beat for all three books. And then you need three 15 beat things for all three books for all three of your POV characters. And then for each individual book, you need three 15 beats for each character that makes up each. And so you get this like stacking upon stacking, lining up upon lining up until it just becomes this like, man. So now, as somebody who loves spreadsheets, I'm like, this is my dream. But it is a little like if you're not big into plotting, this is gonna hurt your brain.
Yeah. No, no. Um, Yeah, I mean, like I'm just relating back to like Mandrake Manor, which was three POVs, and I just came up with the system of every chapter was a different POV, and I had that like overarching plot that drove the story forward, and then I had each of their individual journeys that they were making with relationships. But like in my head, I even view it as like three strings that are braiding because they come together at these various convergence points, but then they go and do their separate path and then they come back together again. But
Hmm.
like I am definitely not doing beat sheets and no.
Yeah, I mean, when I do a novel, I start with who is the character at the start and who's the character at the end. And then I
Yeah.
figure out the growth arc and I'm like, what do they need to learn to be the character I want them to be at the end? What do they need to get over and what do they need to learn? And then often I'm like, what are the misturns they're going to take? What are the mistakes they're going to make on that journey? And but then from there, I do a beat sheet. I drop a beat sheet on top of it. I'm like, okay, let me just make sure I'm getting solid things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the beat sheet real quick, and then we can come back to
Yeah.
that. Because I was about to go into this shape of the story, and I think it'll be helpful to know the beat sheet. So there's 15 beats to the sheet, and I'm just going to go through them real quick. There's the opening image, which sets the tone of the story. It's an emotional tone setter. There's then stating the theme. Well, once you get into the opening image, you're in Act One, and Act One is called the setup, or sometimes it's called the world before. And it's this idea that like you're going to reveal the character's early life,
Yeah.
or I'll use her language. You're going to reveal the hero's early life. Somewhere in there, in a spread in a screenplay, it's at page 5. You do the theme stated, and this is where another character looks at the hero and tells the hero how they need to grow.
Yeah.
Um, at page 13 in a screenplay, you get the inciting incident, or he calls it the catalyst. She calls it the catalyst too. And then you have a section of debate where the inciting incident launches the character into a challenge. And then the debate, the character decides whether or not they want to take on the challenge or just live in their ordinary world. And then somewhere around page 27 of a screenplay, the character breaks into two, which means you're starting Act Two because the character has made the decision they're going to tackle this thing. Then you start the B story. Now, this is a different B story, but it's related. So here, the B story means you're bringing in another set of characters that are going to cause chaos, challenge the character in a different way. Now, this does set the character off on their path of growth, of internal growth, but it is not the same as the character growth arc. So the B story is being used twice in this book, and I just want to point out that they're different. Just to plug Story Hypothesis, go read that. The phrase developing need is much better for what she's talking about in B story. Highly recommend. 5 stars. In this, you're doing fun and games in this. So the first umbrella of Act One is World Before. The second umbrella of Act Two is fun and games. So you're kind of chasing this idea that like there's this extra story going on.
Yeah.
That is the journey they're on. You then hit the midpoint, and the midpoint is either a false victory or a false defeat. If you're writing a tragedy, it's a false defeat. If you're writing a hero's journey, it's a false victory. The reason I say that is because this 15 beats, they always produce an S curve. So if you take an S and you turn it on the side, that is the emotional journey of the Save the Cat. And you can turn an S either on its side one way or on its side another way. And if it ends with a downward trajectory, it's a tragedy. If it ends with an upward trajectory, it's a hero's journey. And so the midpoint has to be an example of where you're going to end. So it's either an emotional false victory or it's an emotional false defeat, depending on if you're writing a tragedy or win. After the midpoint, you have the bad guys closing in, the all is lost moment, and the dark night of the soul. I think maybe the biggest contribution of this 15 points is this, hey, by the end we should have an all is lost and a dark night of the soul. Everybody still talks about that all the time, even
Yeah.
people who hate this structure. And that ends Act Two. The Dark Night of the Soul is the end of Act Two, and then you're going to break into three, which means you're entering Act Three. Act Three is very short. It is literally just the culminating victory or defeat as a tragedy. In a screenplay, to give you an example, you're going 120 pages. You break into Act Three at page 92, so it's a like tight. You have the finale, and then the final image has to be the opening image, but different.
Yeah.
Same but different. Any thoughts on the 15 beats?
I remember watching, I think it was called like Raya and the Lost Dragon or something.
Mm-hmm.
That one
My
follows
10-year-old
this.
loved that show.
Yeah, and it's good and it follows this, I feel like, to a T.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because like I remember the like theme stated again. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could pick it apart very quickly and very easily through that movie. So highly recommend if you wanted to break down this story. I'm going through it and remembering all these pieces. The part that got me and the part that made me sort of like deviate away from this was the fun and games. Because I was always like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
And it's so difficult when like especially when you're like, okay, act two, fun and games, good luck.
Part of what I don't like about Snyder's system is that he says fun and games is its own beat, but it's actually an umbrella covering
Yeah.
multiple beats,
Yeah.
which drives me crazy because I'm like, fun and games is not a beat, it's an umbrella that
Yeah.
covers. It is what you call Act Two.
Yeah.
Act Two is called fun and games.
Yeah. And I like to like consider that as either like mini quests, and it's
Hmm.
things that either build your character or tools that your character receives in order to then face the end. And so it's, is this like psychological tools that they're going to be getting? Are they physical tools that they need to obtain? Because all stories are slightly different, but regardless of that, there is like an ebb and flow that you see a lot, and that's sort of what helped me figure out what fun in games truly meant, were like these little snippets of quests that you just keep building on.
Yeah. And she talks about it. I think I'm remembering this correctly. She talks about it in Save the Cat Writes a Novel. Fun and games are all the images that are going to be in the trailer of the
That's not helpful.
movie. They're
That
action
sounds lovely.
shots.
That's not
Yeah,
helpful.
they're action shots. They're like people running, people like, dancing, people moving around. They're like go, go, go is
Yeah,
the idea of fun and games. I find, can we critique it now? Do we need to talk about it anymore?
you could cheek it all you want. You're the one that brought this.
I know. I love it. I love it. And I think it causes problems.
Yeah,
Um, I think there's something beautiful about thinking about what you want the emotional shape of your story to be.
yeah,
And I think when I was an early writer, forcing myself into that S curve was super important so that I came to understand what it was.
yeah,
I I want writers now to go, what do I want it to be? Do I want a W? Do I want a straight line down? Do I want a straight line up?
yeah,
Right? Like, and there's a myth that this is the only way to write stories that sell. It's not. Ted Lasso is pretty much a straight line up. There's some small dips in it, in and out, but
yeah.
it is defining kind of uplit, and it is what we all needed during COVID
Yep,
to like survive COVID. We
yep,
just needed something where we were going to show up and the good guys, there's a vehicle character and everybody around him is an engine. Everybody's making him feel good all the time.
yep,
And he's
yep.
got some things to overcome, but man, he overcomes them by cooking people biscuits in the morning, right? Like that's
Right.
like it is what we all needed. And it is just a straight line up. There's some
Yeah,
like, but he doesn't have they try to give him a dark night of the soul, I think like in season 3, and it's just a bad idea. Like, no, we don't want this. It's so
yeah,
like they
yeah,
get off of it real fast. Like there's Severance, which is super popular right now, which is I think another just speaking in television and movies because it's what we all because it's the world we live in. Um, I don't see the 15 beats in it. Like maybe somebody could be like, no, here they are, but I think you could force the story into it, but it
right.
is kind of more of a chaotic spiral.
Yeah,
It's not and season 2, depending on which vehicle you side with, is a tragedy,
yeah,
right? Like if you side with the vehicles that are supposed to be the protagonists, season 2 does not make you happy. It is
yep,
not okay. So there's a like, I think we apply people who love these 15 beats say all stories fall into them. And even in the examples she uses on novels that fall into this structure, I read her examples and I'm like, but does it?
yeah,
Does it really? Like she
yeah,
puts Hunger Games into this, the novel series Hunger Games. The individual books kind of do, but the overall series does not.
yeah,
Hunger Games is a tragedy. It
yeah,
ends sad.
yeah.
Katniss ruins the world. Her sister dies. Like it's sorry if I ruined it. Her
How dare
sister
you?
dies in the end. The thing that she's been trying to save the whole time is utterly destroyed. And then instead of like bringing about a revolution, she spoiler, she murders everybody. Like
Right.
it is a sad, tragic, dark statement on a world with very little hope. And so,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
it
And I
doesn't
think
fit this structure.
right. And I think like as someone who made like the story hypothesis, I know that story hypothesis doesn't fit every story, but it is I meant it to be as simple of a tool that it could if you needed it to, or that it could if you wanted to break some story apart. I think that when you start getting into these really big structures, it becomes more difficult because then you have to sort of be like, "Hey, it kind of fits." And so you're just trying to like jam the story into the structure. And I think I've had the same kind of concepts with like story grid. And even in some instances, like three-story method doesn't always work. And so there's always these little caveats to them. And so not to be like the hopeless person, but also to say like these structures are intended to be something that you sort of learn. They're like stencils, and then you can stop using the stencil and you can make whatever you want.
Yeah, or if you love using stencils, you can keep using it forever.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think part of the reason we push back so hard on Save the Cat specifically is because there's a bravado in the writing.
Yeah.
The last book you'll ever need on how to write a novel, right? Like, is it? Um, I don't think it is, but it might be. That's the thing is what you're saying is it might be. If you love the system and you want to write to the system, this is a system that
Yeah.
helps you do it. Um, and I will say, like I got deep into Story Grid after Save the Cat. A Story Grid for was incomprehensible to me in some ways. Like it's very complicated. It has to do with math. There's numbers that I was always like, we all know that these are relative numbers, right? Like we're just uh, abstractly applying these to how we feel about it. And then pure story grid people were like, no, they have meaning. I'm like, all right. You're not doing it right. I'm like, probably not. But I wouldn't have understood story grid if I hadn't read Save the Cat first.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Um,
Because I think I did the same thing.
yeah, going straight into story grid is tough. Going from Save the Cat. So that I say that to say this 15 beat structure is a beautiful primer into story structure.
Yeah.
Um, And in the end, what it teaches you is the rise and fall of story movement. But I do worry that it distracts from what the real story is, which is the character's growth arc. I'm just going to
Yeah.
keep going back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's skip genres for a second, which is her part three, and let's jump to plotting to pitching, because her take on pitching comes directly out of these 15 beats. So since we just talked about 15 beats, it's easier to talk about pitching. She um she has two types of pitches, the log line, which is like one sentence elevator pitch. Elevator pitch meaning you can say this in an elevator. Um or Lindsay Hughes, who I would say if you really want to learn pitching, go to the pitch master, Lindsay Hughes. But Jessica Brody has the log line and then she has the longer pitch. Um the log line is a one sentence that describes your A story and B story. A man, and man is appropriate for Save the Cat, a man who blah, 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 then must blah, 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 blah. It's like A story and B story. Or actually, it's B story and A story. The longer pitch is like, hey, we want you to use 7 of these 15 beats, like a sentence for each 7. So, or a phrase for each 7. So you do opening image, catalyst, break into 2, midpoint, all is lost, break into 3, final image. Um, this person, the thing that sets it in motion, must learn this thing, is complicated by this, loses everything in this way, finds this solution, and is transformed into this.
Yeah.
That's your pitch. So if you write to the 15 beats, it gives you a built-in pitch, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah.
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 I
That sounds a lot like the Pixar pitch. Same concept.
Very, very similar concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar
And
concept.
like those are great. And like I would always say, like, once you get that, if you intend to pitch that, you better edit that because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just gonna sound like everyone else's.
Well, and it is interesting. I was pitching, so I'm querying, you know, production people right now for screenplays. And Sean, we have three vehicles in the screenplay we're pitching. The first thing Sean said to me was, we have to write a pitch for each one. And depending on who you pitch, that's the. So if I'm pitching an actor that I want to play the younger role, I have a query letter that's focused on that POV. If I'm pitching the actor who's like the old mentor character, I have a query letter that's focused on that POV, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the limit of Save the Cat is that it is focused for a single POV. So if you're creating these things, even when it comes down to the pitch, you have to have a different POV. You have to have a different pitch for each POV.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
you know,
But
if
hey, that's
if I
Hollywood.
sell a movie, I'll come back on and be like, "Hey, it's
This is
working."
how it did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, then I'll write Save the Cat books. Um,
And it would be me.
yeah, and I'll be swimming in money like Scrooge McDuck. So let's go back to the 10 genres. Um, I don't want to cover every one of these, but this is very different than indie authors talk about genres. When we talk about genres, we're talking about Amazon genres. Like
Hmm.
this is how Amazon groups books together.
Yeah.
Cozy romance, right? Like actually now it's more like cozy queer Bigfoot romance in the Appalachians. So
Oh,
versus
I will
cozy queer
say,
Bigfoot romance in the Grand Tetons. Yeah.
I will say exciting news. It's not on Amazon, but the like BISAC categories, the BISAC,
Yeah.
they now include cozy fantasy, which they didn't have.
Hey, look at that.
So
Way to go, Amazon coming around to what
that
people
wasn't
want.
Amazon, but yeah,
That wasn't Amazon. Okay.
no.
Way to go, someone else coming around to what people need. No, these are more in the John Trudy Anatomy of genres, or in the sevenfold storytelling
Yeah.
by what's his name? I can't
Yep.
remember his name.
I know what you're
Um,
talking about.
yeah,
Mhm.
these are more like they're what I would say they are is emotional arcs that you can follow. Now, using these, it's always the S curve, but
Mhm.
it's whether the S curve points up and down and how you get it to do that. So there's monster in the house, which is in essence like there's a monster and you're running away from it.
And it's in the house.
And it's in a house. Well, it's in
Mhm.
a confined space.
Yeah.
That's the key is that there's like boundaries. They can't just run away. They're
Yeah.
trapped with the monster.
Pennywise in Dairyville.
Yeah. Jaws.
Yeah.
It's coming to the beach. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I was always like, just don't go to the beach.
Dairyville.
But yeah. Golden Fleece is number two, which is the like standard journey myth. Out of the bottle is number three. You've caused a problem that you then have to fix. Dude with a problem is number four. Dude with a problem is like that. This guy has to overcome something. You can kind of hear the sexism in it that people
Yeah.
complain about. Dude with a problem, bro. But that's just immediately what you think. Uh, it's the actual genre is a little deeper than that. Rites of Passage is the next one. This is your like coming of age. Buddy love is the idea that like friends are going to help you be the best version of yourself. Who done it is the mystery genre. Like there's a mystery presented up front, you got to fix it. Fool triumphant is another kind of a little bit different one than we think of, but the idea is that ignorance is the character's strength. So like a character that's super naive and that naivety ends up being what is their strength. I always think of Monk for this one, the TV show Monk, where he's like his OCD is his superpower.
Yeah.
Um, Institutionalized are people that live in a very strict system and have to fight out of it. You can think of like the Hunger Games or uh what's the one we're living right now? Handmaid's Tale. Um Superhero. Don't laugh, it draws attention to my political commentary. Superhero is pretty self-explanatory. It's like a special person does special things.
Yeah.
Um she says in Save the Cat Writes a Novel that you should probably combine these in your novel.
Yeah.
that you're not going to land in one, you're going to land in a couple.
Yeah.
Um, the key is to find the one that's best and make sure you're hitting the genre tropes for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't use this is why I've never successfully write fast publish repeat. I don't use genre tropes. I have a like strong aversion to them. You can't tell me what
Fair.
to do. So
I
what are
just put
your
them in the outline. Um,
That's right, nerds works because JP plots it.
uh, I think that yeah, you're right. Like these sound very emotional journey-esque, and I would agree. It's the same with like regardless of if you are researching the markets and the genres, more than likely the story you write could theoretically be shelved on multiple shelves. It's just which shelf are you going to pick? So,
Yeah.
like, Mandrake Manor could be cozy fantasy. It could be romance, like romance. It could be something else in between, just straight up fantasy. But how I market it is how I want the public to be perceived so that I pick the right audience so that that audience is then entertained in the way that I want them to be entertained. Ideally, that is sort of the ideal funnel. So it's sort of the same thing here where you probably are going to be picking a couple, but then there's going to be one that you're going to be sort of like highlighting. And then if either the people you're pitching to or the audience is not liking that, one of the easiest things to do is to just shift and start pushing towards that other one that you may have secondaried. And then if they both suck and you don't get anything from anybody, then maybe it was time to, revise or redo or
Yeah,
just
then
move
walk away
on.
from the story like I did and never finish the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister-in-law yelled at me in the kitchen on Thursday
Nice.
because she actually reads the books I write, and she was yelling at me about Mo and Stacy's mom is still missing for 5 years. Because I never wrote the
Yeah, I
last
get
book.
that too.
Yeah. I think I would say genre the section on genre, just to give a caveat, because I know we have a lot of listeners that are doing this. If you're writing the book of your heart, if you're not interested in selling or starting a career or like, you know, winning prizes on Amazon, that's what this is about. The writing genre is about like, hey, this is how you fit into people's expectations. But if you're writing the book of your heart, I would say read these to help give you ideas, but don't try to fit the book of your heart into a genre.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you're writing to sell or you're writing to like, I want to be a full-time writer or I even want to be a part-time writer with kind of a career, then you do need these. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I would say like the stuff that I'm writing, I didn't necessarily do a ton of research into like genre. I just sort of wrote the stories I wanted to write. And now that things are a little different, I
Mhm.
am looking at, what sort of tropes and sort of expectations do readers have so that I can better align my future stories. But yeah, I think that like you don't have to do the what is my genre, write it down and then stick to it while you're writing your story. That's for after the fact.
Yeah.
Worry about it afterwards. And then once you get a few books published and you want to start making more of a career move towards this, that's when you can start to like implement some of these other structures and some of these other expectations.
Yeah. And I will for the first, I'm about to come up on my 10-year anniversary as a
Ooh,
novelist, which is fun.
congratulations.
Thank you. Um, I, what was as for the first 7 years of writing, I was crippled by very intense self-doubt. Um, the beat sheet was amazing for working through that self-doubt. The genres made it impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard. Um, So, if you're a writer that struggles with self-doubt, I would recommend, and you're getting started, I would recommend using the beat sheet. Um, I would probably recommend trying to stay away from the genre because they feel overwhelming. And you're like, I'm never going to succeed in that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a struggle there. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've covered everything. We've
I
kind of
think
covered her
so.
frequently asked questions
Yeah.
as we've talked through stuff. Anything else you want to add about Save the Cat Writes a Novel?
It's a really good, regardless of Save the Cat Writes a Novel or Save the Cat, the beginner, um, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Uh, they're both really great, especially for starting out. But caveat, don't get overwhelmed by structure, unless that is something that is for you.
Yeah.
Um, Clifton strengths wise, I'm high input, intellection, and ideation. So like I don't think the structure works for me.
Mm,
And I was one of those people that thought like, hey, I'm super analytical, I have a science background. Of course the structure would work for me. But for me, what I've come to realize is that if I can make the entire structure ahead of time before writing, then I've already done the thing. So why write it?
yeah.
And so, like, that might be someone listening to this who is like, oh, I need structure because that's sort of what, and then they sort of feel this sort of fizzle out.
Mm,
That's probably what it is.
yeah.
You can't do the whole thing. You've got to start, writing and start focusing on that first. So, like, for me, I have a really rough outline, and then every time that I go to write a new chapter, I look at that one sentence and then I build the sentence out at that point so that I can,
Mm,
keep myself moving forward.
yeah. Yeah, I'm off the chart strategic individualization and context. And so you can kind of see why the beat sheet worked for me. I like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
know that I like to understand how things have come to be. That's my
yep,
context. And I'm off the chart strategic. I see the world in systems and machines. And so
yeah,
this really helped me plug in the story, being like, oh, there's the machine. I see it. And then it helped me because I could go like, well, if this machine exists, there must be others. And
hmm
that's what drove me to like understanding craft. But so there's a, I think this is for a certain, I like that we're caveating this at the end because if this doesn't work for you, you shouldn't feel bad. Does
No,
that make
yeah,
sense? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's
And if
why
it
we
does
have
work for you, you shouldn't feel bad. Like it's,
right.
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
why we have those terms, outliners, pantsers, plotters,
yeah,
grafters, architects, whatever they are.
whatever they
Uh,
are. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think that that's why it's so frustrating for me to see people who want to promote a structure and say that this is the only thing you'll need,
hmm
um, because it's highly inaccurate. We have not only the fact that this is mostly for Western storytelling for a 3.5 act structure, we have other storytelling structures. We have
yeah,
thousands of craft books because people want this sort of thing, and it just makes it nice and marketable when you can say this is the only thing that people need.
yeah. Oh, I forgot. There's one thing we have to talk about.
Ooh,
The
what?
title, Save the Cat, where it comes from.
Oh yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yep.
So the idea behind Save the Cat is that if you have an unlikable protagonist in the opening image, you have them do something that shows a positive quality. So
Yeah.
there's a movie in which Al Pacino is an unlikable protagonist, but in the very beginning, he saves a cat from a tree. So Blake Snyder's theory is like, and everybody goes, "Oh, I do like him." Now, in a book, I will say this isn't true, because that opening image is not the book is too, if you have an unlikable protagonist, the book is too intimate with that protagonist. It's
Yep.
too intimate in the vehicle so that an act of saving the cat, the whole time, you're going to have to be why that character in a movie, you can just show that. In a book, you have to talk about why the character's saving that cat, and it's going to be for an unlikable reason because it's an
Yep.
unlikable character. So the way you save the cat, quote unquote, in the book is you pair a character that really likes your unlikable protagonist.
Yeah.
You get a character that's like, I like this person. And
Yeah.
then we go, oh, there is something to like about this person. Like in Bachman's Britt Marie Was Here, Britt Marie is a very unlikable protagonist. But we immediately, in chapter one, we get a social worker that's like, this woman's really interesting. And so we're like, oh, she is really interesting. And
Yeah.
and the social worker's like, I really want to help her. And so like, oh, I really want to help her too. And that like, but it's done through the relationships with other characters, not through
Yeah.
the opening image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we should probably run through that real fast.
Yeah. Don't have your absolute trash goblin of a person just angrily saving a cat and being like, got it.
Got it. Oh, everybody will love him now. No, it doesn't work that way in novels. You need to have your absolute trash goblin and have a girlfriend who's like, isn't he funny? And then you're like, he is kind of funny. Yeah. So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I think we did it. Anything you want to pitch here at the end?
I wasn't prepared. No.
Go buy JP's books.
Yeah, go buy my
You
books.
gotta buy his books.
Yeah, Mosswood Apothecary is coming out.
Nice.
Go get that.
Season 2?
No,
Book
just
2?
the book.
Just the book itself. Okay.
The book itself.
Look, man,
If you get
I'm
if you get
rushing you. I'm like, can you get to part 2,
I know,
please?
right? Get part two. If you get the special edition, it has like 20 pieces of art in it. So
Ooh, I bought it in the Kickstarter. I'm very excited for my copy.
yeah,
Um,
the copies are ordered. I'm just waiting for
yes.
them to send them.
Are they coming with 1,000 books that are gonna cram
No,
into
those
that
are coming
line of copy?
separately.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So we got multiple orders. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm gonna hit stop and we can
Okay.
chat a little bit more.